If you've been scrolling through endless lists of dust collectors, watching video after video, and still feel like you're staring at a wall of numbers that don't really tell you how the machine will behave in your garage, this review is for you. You're probably wondering whether a 3-horsepower unit is overkill for a weekend hobbyist, or if it's just enough to keep a professional shop clean without breaking the bank. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through what the Laguna Tools Flux 3 actually does when you plug it into a typical woodworking setup, where it shines, and where it might leave you reaching for a different model. First off, the biggest decision point for any dust collector is the balance between suction power and the size of the space you need to keep clean. A 3 HP motor puts the Flux in the middle of the market, more robust than the entry-level 1.5 HP units that struggle with thick chips, but not as massive as the 5 HP floor-mounted beasts you'd see in a commercial cabinet shop. If your workbench is a standard 84-foot station, you probably won't need anything larger than this. In my own shop, I've got a table saw, a router table, and a small band saw, all feeding into a single 4-inch hose. With the Flux connected, I can run the saws at full speed, cut a 2-inch hardwood slab, and still hear the motor humming but not screaming. The dust doesn't escape the shop, and the air feels noticeably cleaner after a few minutes of use. One of the first things I checked was how the unit handles fine sawdust versus larger wood chips. The Flux uses a cyclone separator, which means the heavier particles drop out before they even reach the filter. In practice, that translates to longer intervals between filter cleanouts. I was able to run a full day of sanding, routing, and cutting, and the filter only needed a light tap-out at the end. For a hobbyist who doesn't want to spend an hour swapping bags every hour, that's a real time saver. On the flip side, if you're pulling a lot of MDF or particle board shavings, those fine particles can still clog the filter faster than solid wood chips. In those cases, you'll notice a slight drop in suction after a half hour, and you'll have to give the filter a quick brush. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something to keep in mind if your primary material is engineered wood. Noise is another practical factor that often gets swept under the carpet in product specs. The Flux sits at about the same decibel level as a typical shop vacuum, which is louder than a high-end, acoustically insulated unit, but quieter than a full-size shop floor collector that can sound like a diesel engine. In a residential setting, the noise is noticeable if you have neighbors close by, but it's not enough to make you want to wear earplugs every time you turn it on. If you're planning to run it while your kids are doing homework, or while you're on a video call, you may want to add a simple sound-absorbing enclosure, or place the unit in a separate room with a short hose run. Portability often decides whether a buyer will actually use the machine or store it forever. The Flux is built on a rolling cart with pneumatic tires, which makes moving it around a workshop relatively painless. I've rolled it from my main shop to a temporary job site in my garage and back without any hassle. The wheels lock, so it stays put once you've positioned it. However, the unit does weigh around 150 pounds, so it's not something you'd want to carry up a flight of stairs. If you need a dust collector that you can lift into a small attic or bring to a client's house regularly, you might want to consider a lighter, smaller model, even if that means sacrificing some airflow. Maintenance is where many dust collectors trip up new owners. The Flux's filter is a standard pleated cartridge that slides out from the front panel. You can tap it clean, wash it with water, and let it dry before reinstalling. No need for special chemicals. That said, the cartridge is a proprietary size, so you'll need to order replacements from Laguna Tools or a compatible third-party source. It's not a hard-to-find part, but the price is a bit higher than generic shop vac filters. If you're on a tight budget and expect to replace filters often, factor that ongoing cost into your decision. Now, who should actually buy this thing? If you're a serious hobbyist who runs a few power tools on a regular basis, need a machine that can handle both fine dust and larger chips, and you have a dedicated space where a rolling cart will fit, the Flux hits a sweet spot. It gives you enough horsepower to keep your air clean without forcing you to invest in a floor-mounted system that requires permanent ductwork. It's also a good entry point for